श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। क्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विशजे भवरोगिणां निधे सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्ते नमः। मूकं करोति वाचालं भङ्गं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मणदे वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। वार्ताय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणे स्वयं व्यासेन कृतितां पुराणमणीनां मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीमष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते द्वेषिणीम्। नारायणपरो व्यक्ता दण्डमव्यक्तसण्डं मण्डस्यान्तस्तु मे लोकः सप्तद्वीपाय मेदिनी अवतीर्णश्च कालट्याकीदारेन्द्रदश्च चतुष्टवतिष्ठः यदा शङ्करो गुरुः शङ्कारूपिणमच्युतं अङ्गीकृतमद्भ्य किङ्किरेयस्तथा माया शङ्कराचार्यमाश्रये। Previously, we were looking at 42nd, 43rd, 44th shloka. We completed them and then we're looking at 45th one, right? So 42nd to 44th. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadantya vipaschitah Veda vadarataha partha nanyadasti iti padinah कामात्मानः स्वर्गपरा जन्मकर्म फलप्रदां क्रियाविशेषबहुलां भोगैश्वर्य गतिं प्रति भोगैश्वर्य प्रसक्तानां तयापहृतचेतसां व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धिः समादो न विधीयते. So those unenlightened people, they give flowery talk which promises the birth as a result of rights and duties, and full of special rights, right? So where kriya vishesha bahula, so they will suggest, they will perform or suggest, they will talk about lot of special rights for the means of bhogaishwarya gatim, right? So they will talk about attaining enjoyment and affluence, and those bhogeshwara prasaktanam tayaparata chetasam. So they again focused on those things. Their minds is full of desires and heaven as the goal. And one-pointed conviction does not come to those people because their minds always delight in those enjoyments, bhoga, aishwarya, and affluence. So those people are carried away by such a flowery talk, pushpitam vacham, right? So they are carried away by like that. So here again, Krishna explains that this is normal, right? So even if you look at everybody, including myself and everyone, right? So people, we do these things. Okay, I need this, I need that. For that, I'm doing this. I'm chanting this shloka or stotra, and then we chant that. If a stotra we chant it, if it's got at the end, it's saying that it's like Mahalakshmi Ashtaka or whatever, right? If we chant this one time, you'll get this, 2 times you get this, 5 times you get that benefit, right? So every time we do this, we all this because of Kriya Vishesha Bahulam. So we'll are doing any vratas or homas or pujas or whatever, right? So it's all based looking for that Bhoga Ishwarya Gatim. So it's all for aiming at those things. So, and even those who give advice as well, those who Veda Vadarata, so they think that those who think that they talk about, they say that this Vedas and everything is for this Bhoga Ishwarya. So, and for such a people, Krishna says that samadho na vidhiyate. So they will not get this one-pointed conviction. They will not attend those things. Their mind will not get that. Like here, the word samadho means samadhi. Here it does not mean the samadhi as comes in the as known in the Ashtanga Yoga. For example, in Ashtanga Yoga, you see that yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, right? So it's not that. Here samadhi means antakarana, it means the mind. Okay, so because the bhoga, aishwarya, all these things related to the mind, it's enjoyed by the mind. So that's why it's means here, it means those one-pointed conviction that mind will not come to them because their mind is focused on this affluence, enjoyment, and affluence. So Bhagavan now tells Arjuna the result accrue in to those people who do not have the discrimination. So who do not have this kind of discrimination that's required for attaining that jnana, that they will attain they will accrue the results of those things. So we'll look at that in the 45th shloka. I think we started this last time. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna Nirdvando Nityasattosto Niryogakshema Atmavan Arjuna. The Vedas have three qualities as their object, and you become free from worldliness, free from pair of duality, ever poised in quality of sattva, without desire for acquisition or protection of the protection, and self-collected. So it's self-collected Atmavan. So we'll look at the details in a second. So those who have thus devoid of discrimination of the wisdom, as said in the previous three shlokas, who indulge in pleasure, O Arjuna, the Vedas, that is the karma kandas, the ritualistic portion of the Vedas, those Vedas, the Vedas have three qualities as their object. So they see these Vedas as three qualities. So that is the three gunas. So Traigunya here means the collection of three gunas. So when this human birth is the result of those three gunas. Okay, so because if one is fully tamasa, so three gunas, again, three gunas come later in the Bhagavad Gita in detail, little more in detail. So we'll look at that there in detail. But three gunas are sattva, which is purity, rajas, which is kind of energy, tamasa, which is darkness. Okay, sattva, rajas, tamas. So tamasa guna. So those three. So now, if one is purely tamasa, that is the darkness in translated English. It's some of these words is very difficult to translate to English as well. So I'm going to use Sanskrit wherever I can. Tamasa. So that tamasic guna, if one has purely that, the next birth will not be as a human being. Okay, it will be like an animal or a worm or whatever. It will be like that. And Rajasa and Tamasa may be some sort of better type of animals. But one who has all three qualities mixed, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, Traigunya, Vishayat, this is what here this shloka talks about. Such a person will get this as the object. So what is that object? This birth. Okay, so the samsara, the worldly life, will become part of them, which is made up of virtuous, sinful, and mixed deeds and their results, all brought about by the interaction of these three gunas. So they attain as the object that to be revealed. So they think that those people who do not have this discrimination in wisdom, they think that Vedas, the Karma Kandas, have these three qualities that results in this kind of samsara. So they think that that's the objective. But you, Arjuna, what Bhagavan says is you become nistraigunya. You become free from three qualities, three gunas. So you will be free from desires. So here Shankaracharya uses the translation or explains the nistraigunya as nishkama, because later in this same shloka we see nitya sattva bhava. So you become ever poised to the sattva guna. Okay, so if we are saying nistraigunya, that means all three gunas, you're beyond those three gunas. So, but he says that you become sattva. Okay, so that's why Shankaracharya explains that Nistraigunya here means Nishkama, free from desires. So Shankaracharya explains this as Nistraigunya as Nishkama. You become Nishkama, you become Bhava, you become Nistraigunya, Bhava, Nistraigunya. Then also Bhagavan says that be Nirdvandva, free from pairs of duality. The word by so it's free from the pairs of duality by the word dvandva. So duality, that's what mentioned here. And they again they're meant for conflicting pairs, heat and cold, happiness and sorrow and things like that. So those do not, you free from that. You're not become elated at something you gain, something lost, you become very grief stricken, sorrowful. So don't become like that, which is again the cause of happiness and sorrow. You become nirdvandva. You become free from them, from heat, cold, etc. You bear them, forbear them. So again here, the word bhava need to be applied to all these things. Nistraigunya bhava, nirdvando bhava, niryoga kshema bhava, nityasattva bhava. Okay, so all this, so you become that, you become that, you become that. That's what Bhagavan says. So first he says Nistraigunya bhava, that means nishkama, free from desires. Second was have that discriminating power, strength. So you not attached to anything. So heat or cold or victory or loss, whatever it is that results in happiness and sorrow, you become see them as equal. And then he says nitya sattva bhava, always poised to the quality of sattva. And what is sattva? We will look at that later in Bhagavad Gita. And he says also niryoga kshema bhava. So without desire for acquisition and protection. So yoga means acquisition of what one does not have, and kshema means the protection of what one has. Okay, so anupattasya upadanam yoga. So that's what Shankaracharya explains. Anupattasya upadanam yoga. So what one does not have, obtaining that is yoga. And upattasya rakshanam kshema. So what one has, protecting that is kshema. Okay, so in normal vocabulary and language, we use the word yogakshema, right? So if we are inquiring about their yogakshema. So how, so yogakshema, yoga means acquiring something, acquisition of something, and kshema is protecting. What Krishna is saying is niryogakshema bhava, not yogakshema bhava, niryogakshema bhava. That means you do not go for without any desire for acquisition or even protection of what you have. So if you have something, do not have the desire to protect it, or if you don't have something, do not desire to acquire that things. So because the one who has acquisition and protection foremost in his mind, it is difficult to seek moksha. Yogakshema pradhanasya shreyasi pravrittir dushkara. That's what Shankaracharya says. So the one who has this thought of acquiring something or protecting what one has, such a person, for them, it is very difficult to seek moksha. So shreyasi pravrittir dushkara. So then that's why you be free from acquisition and protection. That's what Krishna says. And how do you become free from Nistraigunya, Nirdvandva, Nityasattva, Niryogakshema? How do you become that? He says, you also become by Atmavan, self-collected, looking at yourself. Looking at yourself means, again, not body, but your inner self. Be vigilant. And this is the advice, again, given to you while you are engaged in your own duty. So that's what says here. Tava upadesha swadharmam anuptishtatah. So it says that this again given while you are engaged in your own duty and not from the point of seeking moksha. So even as a duty, you have to think about this doing without any desire. So that's what Bhagavan says. Now, again, become free from these things, the desire for acquisition, the preservation, again, that is to become again free from possession of which disturbs when if one becomes become free of the possessions, which again disturbs the mind. So there again, there should not be any worry that how shall I live in such a state, right? So because if you say that do not think about protecting what you have, what you are acquired, the kshema part, or if you don't have something, how you are going to acquire it is the yoga part. If you think like that, then you might be thinking, you might worry that how shall I live in such a state, right? Since the Bhagavan, who is the inner controller of all, will himself arrange for your acquisition and preservation. So Bhagavan will take care of that if you are become desireless, if you are nirdvandva, niryoga nityasattva, atmavan, if you become atmavan, then Bhagavan will take care of that. He will arrange for your acquisitions, he will protect it, he will look after the yogakshema. So that's all we want, right? But what we do, instead of we ignore Bhagavan and we try to acquire ourselves, we try to look after ourselves. So that's where Krishna says here, don't do that. He tells Arjuna again, remember, every shloka we look here, every word we look here, Krishna is saying to Arjuna. But if you go back to the very first sessions of this Gita Śāstra thing we are doing, Shankaracharya in very introduction to Bhagavad Gita, why he wrote this Bhashya, he said that Krishna wrote this, Krishna told this, making Arjuna as a medium. He wanted to give this message to everybody, right? So we have to consider ourselves as Arjuna and take every advice every instruction that's coming from Krishna as an instruction to us. That's the only way. And it's not that so previously we looked at Krishna telling Arjuna, this is your duty, right? So as a Kshatriya, so now we should ask, what is my duty? Right? So that's the question we should be asking. So those shlokas 31 to 39, 38, 39, those shlokas Krishna explained that Arjuna, you should, as a Kshatriya, even if you look at it from as a Kshatriya, you should perform your duties, right? So now those shlokas gone. So what does that mean? Krishna told Arjuna to perform battles. I don't have any battles to go to, so I don't have to worry about those things, right? That should not come in our mind. The question we should be asking is, what is my duty then? If Krishna is saying that to Arjuna, if Krishna is in front of me, what would he tell? If he is telling that to me, what would he tell? Right? What is my duty? So same thing here when we look at when all these translations, Krishna said this to Arjuna, Krishna is not telling this to Arjuna, Krishna is telling this to everybody. Okay, for the benefit of all his devotees, he's saying that Nirdvanda Bhava, Nistraigunya Bhava, Niryoga Kshema Bhava. So he's saying that. So that's why when one gets into that kind of mindset without any desires, then Krishna himself, Bhagavan himself, he will look after the Yogakshema. He will give the whatever that's required, whatever need to be acquired or preserved, he will look after that. So the idea is be free from worries, being assured that when I adore that Paramatma by abandoning all the desires, he himself will arrange for me all that is necessary for the bare preservation of this body. So he will arrange those things, and that's why he says that Atmavan Bhava. The Atmavan again means be vigilant. So the be in the you become vigilant and you become thinking about that, not thinking about what you need to acquire and things. You start thinking about what you should be thinking, which is thinking about Paramatma. So then Krishna now starts explaining about the true karma yoga. So again, he explained 1 to 38, 39, he explained what, looking from a duty point of view, Kshatriya duty point of view. Then he said, people talk about karma as in all these Vedas or karma related it results and all those things. And then Krishna says, that's ignore all that. You should become Nistraigunya, Nirdvanda and all these things, Atmavanbhava. Now he starts explaining about the karma, how to perform such a desireless karma. Okay, desireless karma, actions, how one should perform those actions. So the question is, if there is no need for infinite results of all the rights and duties mentioned in the Vedas, then why should they be performed as a dedication to Ishvara, right? So the question that would come to mind is, if the Vedas, whatever the Vedas are given in the Karma Kanda, saying that doing this ritual, this sacrifice, or this vrata, or whatever, right? If that results that's coming, when there is no need for it, then why should one even perform those kind of things? So to answer that, Bhagavan says in the next shloka, Yavanartha udapane sarvatah samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanatah. So a brahmana with realization has that much utility in all the Vedas as a man has in a well when there is flood all around. It's one of the very complex shlokas. We'll look at that in a detail in a second. And again, also this shloka explains the benefits or the merits of nishkama karma, the karma without any desires. It explains that. So yavan means whatever, artha means purpose, udapane means a well of water, a tank. Sarvatah in all aspects. Samplutodake means large lake or large tank or large water body. Tavan means that many. Sarveshu means in all. Vedeshu means Vedas. Brahmana says one who has realized this Paramatma Tattva in that absolute truth. And Vijanatha, who is in complete knowledge. So to realize this shloka, one could organize this as Udapane Yavan Artha Tavan Sarvaha Samplutodake Evam Sarveshu Vedeshu Yavan Artha Tavan Vijanatha Brahmanesya Jnane. So here, by adding couple of words, this shloka becomes easy to understand. So the word here, in the word, whatever the utility used like bathing, drinking, etc., one has in a well, pond, or a tank, and other means of smaller reservoirs, all that is indeed achieved, i.e., all those needs are fulfilled to the very extent when there is flood all around. Right? So that's what this shloka says. So if, for example, you have the pleasures, so in a similar manner, let's complete. So in a similar manner, whatever the water, whatever the utility, result of the action there is, sarveshu, in all, sarveshu vedeshu, in all the Vedas, whatever the result of those Vedas saying that this is going to result in these things, this is going to give this result, this is going to give in this benefit, in all those Vedas, in the rights, duties mentioned in those Vedas, all those utilities is achieved, i.e., that is, gets fulfilled to the very extent in that result, to the very extent in that result of realization, which becomes to a Brahmana, a sannyasin. So Shankaracharya here says that the Brahmana, he used the word sannyasin. So who knows the reality of that supreme goal, that Paramartha Tattva, that becomes comparable to the flood all around. The flood, it's just like tavan tat tavan tatpare mana eva sampadyate sarveshu vedeshu vedokteshu karmasu yah artha yat karma palam sa artha brahmanasya sannyasinih paramarthatvam vijanatah. So just like what it's saying is all the pleasure which results from performance of all the works that's said in the Vedas is comprehended in the happiness, in the place which the man who has realized the Atma, Atma Tattva, Paramatma, man who has realized finds as the essence of his own Atma, right? So one who realizes that Paramatma is nothing but the Atma inside me, that such a realization, when that person experiences that happiness, is included in every other happiness that one might get by performing all the works that's mentioned, all the actions, rituals, rites, duties, whatever that's mentioned in the Vedas. Okay. So, and everyone must admit that all kinds of the limited bliss, okay, whatever that may be. So the bliss that comes from performing some actions, rites and duties, all that is comprehended in this infinite bliss of realizing that Paramatma is inside me, and that whatever that's inside me, that Atma inside me, is the Paramatma. That realization, that happiness one gets, that infinite bliss, is every other happiness is comprehended in that. So that's why the path of Karma Yoga, which in the end leads to attainment of this infinite bliss of self, cannot be fertile. And again, as Arjuna might have thought that what is the use of those things? Arjuna here, Bhagavan says that that's how it is. So there is, because again, Shankaracharya here quotes the Upanishad text, for example, from Chandogya Upanishad. He says that yatha kritaya vijitaya dhareyaha samyam teva menam sarvam tadabhisameti yat kinchit prajaha sadhu kurvanti yastadveda tatsaveda. So what it says is all the virtuous deeds performed by the people get included in this one, the one that who knows what he knows. So that's like that Paramatma Darshana. So the one that has that, all the virtuous deeds that's performed included in. So that's what Chandogya Upanishad says. So Shankaracharya quotes that as an example related to this shloka here. And also Bhagavan in the 4th chapter, 33rd shloka, he says that Sarvam Karma Akhilam. He says that all the actions in their totality culminate in knowledge. So again, Shankaracharya quotes this to make sure that whatever that's said in the Gita aligns with what's said in the Upanishad text as well. That's why before one attains the fitness for this steadfastness in knowledge, in jnana, so before one attains that jnana yoga, that's Samkhya, which we looked at between shlokas 11 and 38, 39. So whatever we looked at in that shlokas, sorry, in 11 and 30th shloka, whatever we looked at. So those, before one becomes fit for those Sankhya Yoga, rights and duties, even though they have limited utility, just like a pond or a well or a tank, that has to be undertaken by one who is fit for rights and duties. So Shankaracharya again here clarifies that tasmat prak jnana nishtadikara praptehe karmanyadhikritena kupatada gadhyartha sthani yamapi karma kartavyam. So he says that till one attains, becomes fit for that Jnana Yoga, one has to perform these rites and duties, even just like one may be living on a small pond or a tank or a water body for fulfilling his needs. Okay, so like that, one has to do it, undertake those things, rights and duties. Now, again, this again, little bit more explaining this shloka. Just imagine there are a lot of streams of water, a lot of small water tanks, whatever, right? So each one does its own purpose, fulfills its own purpose. That's how these Vedic rites and rituals and everything is. But when all those streams and waters, let's say, goes into a huge lake, that lake would do all the things that could be performed by smaller tanks, right? So just like that, this smaller pleasures being part of this bliss that is Brahman becomes merged in it. So again, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also says, Etasyaiva anandasya anyani bhutani matram upajivanti. So on the particle of this very bliss, that is the realizing that bliss of that Brahman, other beings live. So purely from that Paramananda, that Brahmananda, all the other beings live, all the other happiness, small pleasures are part of that. So which is that bliss, though it is one, is spoken as many parts and a whole. So some say that this is this type of happiness or that type of happiness or whatever it is, but all this is part of that Brahmananda. That's what it says. But we don't realize that Brahmananda because of the limitations through ignorance, through avidya. Because of that, we don't realize. Just like space, we say referred in a pot or something. So let's say there is a bucket or a pot or whatever. Inside that, we say there is space, right? Empty space. But outside also there is space. Everywhere there is space, right? But because of that pot, we say this is the space in that pot, right? So that pot gives the impression that that space belongs to that. Just like that, the happiness or whatever we get here is limited to that because of those ignorance we have, that we don't realize that Paramatma is everywhere, all pervaded. We don't realize that, we don't feel that, we don't experience that. We think that this is what happiness is, this is what it is. But Brahmananda is every happiness that one could experience is there in that Brahmananda. And that's why you will achieve that bliss of that supreme Brahman when the knowledge of Atma, when Atma Jnana will dawn onto you after your mind has become purified through Nishkama Karma. When mind gets purified through that Nishkama Karma, you will attain that Atma Jnana. And since through that very achievement of all the pleasures will become attained, therefore, you will remind there will remain no scope for anxiety regarding not getting smaller pleasures. Okay, so there should not be any anxiety that if I do that, what's going to happen, and I'm not going to enjoy this if I give up all these things. So that should not be there. That's why undertake selfless work in order to attain Tattva Jnana, that Brahma Jnana. To attain that, undertake selfless work, which leads to that supreme bliss, and that's the idea of this shloka explanation. And now the question could come from Arjuna: if the acquisition of this supreme bliss, this Brahmananda, that supreme bliss is brought about by achieving that Atma Jnana through Nishkama Karma, then in that case, Atma Jnana itself should be achieved. What is the need for actions? Why should we get involved in all this karma yoga if jnana yoga is the one that's going to give me the Brahmananda, that happiness, supreme bliss, right? Why all this great effort in going through all this karma and everything when there is jnana yoga? We know that that gives that path, that's the path, and that's the one that's going to give that supreme bliss, right? So is there a shortcut? So that's what question might come here after this shloka. So, and that's why Bhagavan says that in the next shloka, he says that for you, Arjuna, he says, karmanyevadhikaraste, karmanyevadhikaraste, ma phaleshu kadachana, ma karma palaheturbhur, mate sangosta karmani. Your right is for action alone, never the results. Do not become the agent of the results of action. May you not know have any inclination for inaction. So this is one of the famous shlokas in Bhagavad Gita. So karmani means in the prescribed duties. Eva means only, adhikara means right, te means your, ma means not, phaleshu means in the fruits, kadachana means at any time, ma again means never, karma, karma phala means results of those activities, actions, hetu means cause, bhu means be, ma means not, te means your, sangha means attachment, astu must be, akarmani means inaction. Now, before we go into explanation of this, obviously this shloka is everyone says, right? Karmanyevadhikaraste mahabhaleshu kadach. So karma, again, we talk about karma many times. Just to be clear, these days, for example, people say that's his karma, he's going to see because of his karma, he's going to get that, right? So that's one way of looking at this. And then other one is we looked at what we performing. We looked at as a 3 different categories. So just to explain briefly on this, when we talk about I have this because of my karma, or he's experiencing that something bad happened or good happened because of his karma, whatever we say, that's called prarabdha karma. So there are 3 types of karma: sanchita, prarabdha, agami. Okay, so sanchita karma, let's say it's a kind of your bank balance. Okay, so you have a pot of good and bad, everything from previous lives accumulated somewhere. Now, prarabdha karma is a portion that's given to saying that this is your monthly spending money, okay, from that bank balance. That's what you're going to experience. It may be high, it may be low, it may be whatever it is. So that's what we are going to experience. Okay. So prarabdha karma, throughout the month, we either spend or we save from that. So we do good things or bad things. Okay, when you look at that. So we were at the end of that month. So let's consider a month as one's lifespan. And at the end of that month, a new month starts, a new life starts. So whatever the prarabdha, during that prarabdha experience, you do something, right? So you do maybe good things, bad things, that all gets again added to your bank balance. So if you save and if you earn more and if you spend quite a lot and all those things, you might lose your balance, you might go in negatives, or you might come in add positives. So your sanchita karma pot either gets added, whatever the punya or papa, all those things gets added. Then agami karma is the one what one accumulates in that life. Okay, so sanchita karma, a part of that gets experienced in heaven or hell, and then a part becomes prarabdha karma in the next life, and then some remains. Okay, so sanchita karma is not cleared completely till one attains moksha. Okay, again we will come to this later in Bhagavad Gita. Shankaracharya explains how if one has a sin accumulated through previous lives, how that gets wiped out when moksha attained and when this knowledge realization comes and things like that. So that's one part. Okay, the second part is nitya karma, naimitya karma, what one does. Okay, so just to be clear, if someone is saying that he experienced it because of his karmas, that's related to this prarabdha karma. Okay, now whatever one is doing, we divide that into 3 times: nitya, naimittika, and kama karmas. I think we previously touched on that, but we will cover that next time, and also this shloka in detail next time. Okay, nearly out of time. Any questions for today?